Okay, so I'm going to make a quick video on how to handle text, tips, tricks, and faster ways to get text onto your file. So I went ahead and used your EX2 as an example, so that's xrefed in. My first tip is, so all your text stuff is under annotate. You can also do this with commands. I prefer commands. But you can see your different options. There are two main options of text, single line and multi-line text. They're kind of as explained. So a multi-line allows you to drop down and have like paragraphs versus single line will only allow you one continuous line of text. I have found that multi-line text is considerably more editable. Sometimes certain settings don't really work on single line text for some reason. So I prefer multi-line text. In order to activate that command by typing rather than the button, it's MT or mtext. And you just click and draw the box, similar to Adobe products or any other program. So after you've drawn your box, which this one became astronomically large, we'll start off with just putting one of our spot elevations that's on here. So 980. And then what's important is whenever you do these text box that you find the end of your box, if you double click on this diamond, it shortens your box to the extent of whatever you've got typed into it. This will be useful if you apply text masks, because if you do have it all the way out here, it will mask all the way out to the extent of the box. So we're going to shorten that. And so you'll click out. Obviously, this is tiny. One of my favorite boxes to have open all the time that I use for a lot of text stuff is properties. So you can type in properties to get this box up. I cannot tell you where the other button is. I can't remember right now. But you just type in prop and it'll bring up the box over here. And like I said in previous videos, I like to dock my stuff on the side. You just grab the gray toolbar and you can push them and it'll permanently lock them over. And you can mess with if they're permanently showing or if they're just hoverable, like you hover over it and it pops out, and when you hover back up out in model space, it goes away. So properties, I'm going to select that text. First of all, I'm going to make sure that it's on the correct layer. That's important. So it's going to go on a text layer. My preference for the CTP file that you're currently using is text is yellow. That's just me. You'll check on your own drawing and see, what works best for you. But that's a good starting point. Then after that point, we're going to ignore this stuff and we're going to move on to our text height. Obviously, that's microscopic. So we're going to try maybe 1. And it got a little bigger, but not big enough. And we're getting close, so might work with 2.5. So you can choose to rotate this. If you've got a specific angle that you've already defined everything, it's nice to rotate everything to the exact same angle as like your line work, for instance. So if you knew this angle, then definitely go ahead and put in the rotation box exactly how many degrees that is. Or you can just use your rotate command. So RT, actually typically on other people's CAD it's RO. I've just changed the command because I prefer these because the two buttons are next to each other on the keyboard. So RO is what you normally do for rotate. So rotate, click a base point, and drag until you think it matches up. Click. Try and rather than individually rotate each one, either copy this one and alter it every single time, or when you place in new text, copy the rotation angle that you've set for the first one so that it's clean and organized across the entire drawing. So then our text, the next thing is a line is going through that, right? So the idea is you would ideally want to mask it so that you're not going to see the line in the background. So this line would be going through it, right, your existing contour, which would muddy up this drawing and make it hard to read. So what you're going to do is you want to apply a text mask in this case. So we're going to click on this we're going to go back to our properties box. And you're going to scroll down to where it says background mask. There are a handful of ways to do text masks. There's a command for it. There's also something called a wipeout box. There's a bunch of different ways. This is what I have found to be the cleanest, the easiest, fastest, and also the less amount of glitches happen when plotting. I've noticed wipeout boxes in my office used to cause a lot of like little glitchy error type of things. It wouldn't plot correctly sometimes. So I highly suggest using this method. If you come into some weird reason that you need to do something else, make sure you do your research online on how to do it properly. So this mask right here, it says no, you're gonna click your little box next to it. And you're gonna say use background mask, use drawing background color, so rather than a random color. So you could put like a gray box behind it or something. You just want it to be blacked out, basically. You want it to be the color of the page. And then here, the lowest number that you can place is 1. So that means it'll perfectly wrap. Your mask will perfectly wrap and squeeze it against your text. So I like to do like a little bit off of 1 so that it has a little bit of a buffer so that if a line is going through it, it'll offset just a little bit to give it some room to make it easy to read your text. After that, you just push OK. And you can see there's that little extra box around it. Doesn't hug the text too much. And I'm going to shift it over. And this line would obviously be pushed below it. So it would be pushed below it, making it to where you can now read your text really well, but you can follow that this line is continuing underneath it. This doesn't have groups or extra information. It's all sitting on the text box that is still editable. And like I said, if this box exceeds the text, it wipes out all of that with your text mask. So make sure that you keep your boxes nice and small, double clicking on that. And that should be your basic run through on text and background masks. I will add one final tip. My preferred method, just for efficiency, is labeling in paperspace. Whenever you've got your text and all your line work and your XREFs and things like that, when you go to try and move things with your move command and you're selecting a lot of things at once, you tend to pick up a lot of your labels, especially in areas like this when they stack a lot. So my trick is, rather than labeling in here, I do all my line work in here, and I go to a paper space, and I set this to 24 by 36, 1:20, just for this example. But I do my text in here instead, so that it's in a controlled environment, basically. Text height, rotate it, move. The box is too big, shrink it. And then your text mask works the same way in this space. It'll still mask everything sitting behind it. We'll do 1 instead. Use drawing background. Okay. And just as easily, you can label in paper space. And now here you control your text. And then when you have your title block, and that's all that you've got on the sheet with your viewport, making it a lot easier to select things in your model space with all your line work, because it can get a little bit busy. So that's another tip. That's just something that is my preference. It's not a rule of thumb or anything that you need to necessarily follow, just something to try and make your life easier. So yeah, that's it.